Oh, welcome back. So this is a second video about exceptions in chapter 7. And so in our last lecture, we already discussed that exceptions can be caught and handled, not like error. Okay, so error is out of our control. And for exceptions, there are two different types. Okay, it's called like, if you recall in our last example, we have that divide by zero is it that arithmetic exception. That is exception is called unchecked exception. So it's a runtime exception. Okay, it's under runtime exceptions, if you recall. And we also have like argument not match. I think that's also runtime exception. So runtime exception belongs to unchecked exception. Okay. And there is another type. It's called a checked exception. So checked exception, like a file I/O exception, input/output exception. For this type of exception, they must be caught and handled or be declared. Otherwise, it won't compile. The program won't compile. So in our program, we must handle it. Not like unchecked. Unchecked, we can just leave them there. Okay, we don't need the try-catch block. So even try-catch block is not mandatory. It's just it can disrupt the program flow. Okay, but for checked, if we don't provide a way to handle or declare it, so our program won't compile. So if it doesn't compile, then you cannot run it. Okay. So that's the difference between these two type of exceptions. Okay, and then related with exception, there is a concept called through an exception. Okay, so the idea for through exception and how do we handle it? Is it so here it says some method, we write a method to execute code. If you recall previously in our example, we write the method to do division, is it? So that method either explicitly use the through keyword. So the method we use. So we will take a look, we will see that, discuss that later, okay? Or it calls another method that might throw exception. Okay. So then in this scenario, it's throw an exception. The method can throw exception. Okay. So in this method, there's another method. The other method may throw exception. Okay. So then our method needed to throw the exception or handle it. So if the exception is a checked exception, like the input/output I/O exception, then the method must handle it either using try-catch block. So you must handle it, okay, or you declare so that it throws the exception using the keyword throws. So the method itself then needed to declare with the through keyword. So this is new, okay, for the method signature. So method signature can also have through keyword, okay. Otherwise, if you don't have either one of it, the code will not compile, okay. If the exception is unchecked, like the runtime exception, then the method is not required to handle or declare. So you can, for runtime exception, you can just leave it alone, leave it there, okay? So if an exception, no matter it's checked or unchecked, is thrown, but not caught in the current method execution, then it will prop up to the calling method. Okay. And they said if the exception reaches the main method and still not called, then the program will terminate and error message will be output to the console. Okay, so some kind of stack trace to show the error. Then, so either your method handle it, okay, or if we don't handle it, it will, after all, finally go to main. Okay, if main still doesn't handle it, then the program, if the scenario happens, the program will terminate and some error message will uh, output. Okay, normally that's not recommended, is it? Because if it's some application, the customer uses it, the customer is not a programmer, they have no idea what's going on. And so that's why for a programmer as a developer, generally speaking, we need to handle that. So for unchecked, we better do the try catch block to handle. Okay. For checked, then we either need to declare it or handle it. And then, so here we discuss the difference between checked and unchecked. Okay, just like previous, we already discussed unchecked, not required to be handled. You can leave it to the program. Okay. But of course, program will not be terminated gracefully in the scenario that if some exception got thrown, okay? And the checked exception must be handled. And there are two ways to handle it, either using try-catch block to handle the exception, or you declare it in the method header. Okay, we will see that in our example, then you will fully understand it. Okay, and then to declare check the exception. So the idea, so this is a method. So as usual, is it visibility return type, but after the parameter parentheses, you have the keyword throws. Okay, and then you can throw not just a single checked exception, you can throw multiple checked exception. And also you can throw unchecked exception. Okay, so you use this, throw the exceptions. Okay, and then the method body. So here it may throw some exception. So this is throws exceptions syntax. Okay. And generally speaking, normally, so you may ask why the method header declare the checked exception. Is it what's the benefit? Why don't we just handle it? And a lot of cases, we would like to leave the handle of the exception in the main method, okay, or some other method that invoke the method with declare exception. The idea, the benefit is this way we can separate the task code from error handling code. We separate, we don't want to put all of them together, okay? Okay, and then here is a detailed comparison between these two exceptions. So for unchecked exception, examples is like a runtime exception, null pointer, class cast exception, etc. And for checked, the IO file not found exception, and why the exception can occur, etc. And for unchecked, it's may not have enough condition check for some special cases, like now empty invalid input is divided by zero, something like that. And for check, it's a more systematic problem, like input and output issue, that maybe file doesn't exist or a file is broken, something. Okay, so which one checked at compile time? Be careful, it's compile time versus runtime. Okay, for unchecked, it doesn't check at compile, but for checked, it does. So that's why you do need to handle it. Okay, otherwise it won't compile. And how do we handle? Yeah, for uncheck, we can do condition check to prevent. Okay, we also can do the try-catch block. We can also declare using the throw. That for checked exception, it must be handled either in try-catch block or you declare it. Okay, so that's the comparison between these two exceptions. Okay, so this is the photo from of the national park, and can you guess what this national park is? Here's one more picture from it. Okay, yeah, and the answer for this national park is it's Badlands National Park. Okay, so that's for this lecture, and we will discuss the example in our next lecture.